Hi there, it's Amy from Cakes with Faces. Now, before we start, I just wanted to tell you about Japanuary. It's my Instagram photo challenge all about Japan in January. Here's how to join in. There's a theme for each day of the month. Post a picture on Instagram related to the theme for that day and use the hashtag Japanuary. Photos don't have to be new or recent. It's all about sharing recommendations, happy memories, and all the things we love about Japan. It's not too late to join in, and you don't need to post every day if you don't feel like it. It's an easygoing challenge. I've really enjoyed looking through all your photos and hearing your stories so far, so I hope you can join in. All the details are on cakeswithfaces.co.uk/Japanuary. Now today I've got a bonus episode of the Q&A for you with some extra questions that didn't fit in the previous videos. So let's jump straight in.
Queen of Tacos. Hi Amy, what's the most unique dining experience you've had in Tokyo?
The ramen museum it's in Yokohama. It's not far from Tokyo. And they've got loads of different ramen shops, so you can just go around and eat a lot of ramen. They got ramen from different areas around Japan, so you can try them all. And they're supposed to be mini bowls, so you can try more than one. They're actually pretty big. Phil had about 5 ramens that day. It was a good day for you. That might be the best day of your life.
It was. Yeah. I love that day. We went to the Alice in Wonderland cafe.
That was a unique experience. Everything was Alice in Wonderland themed. That was really cute. It was really well done.
One thing we haven't really ever done is have an expensive meal in Japan. Part of that is because I think
we don't have enough money.
Well, yeah, part of it is it's very expensive, but part of it is it's not always the best food for you, being vegetarian. So we tend to find places that we will both be able to eat and enjoy.
Yeah.
But you know, there's such good food. You don't need to spend a lot of money. So I think when people ask about unique, they often mean what's the kind of most unusual dish or the fanciest place you've eaten. And we've not really got a good answer to that.
No, we haven't been to many fancy places.
Rita has asked, what is the most difficult thing you found when the first time you travelled to Japan? Was it the language? Was it getting around the train stations? Was it the time zone difference?
For me, it was being vegetarian, because fish stock in particular is in so much food in Japan. Not all restaurants have a vegetarian option at all. And I didn't really know how it was going to be the first time I went to Japan. And there were so many times we were walking around the streets looking for anywhere we could eat and then resorted to just pizza. Of course, it is a lot easier once you know what you're doing and if you do a bit of preparation. But that was the most difficult thing the first time.
We didn't have internet the first time we went either.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't a thing you could easily get. So I had an offline map on whatever phone I had at the time. And so getting around wasn't too bad, but you couldn't quickly Google for a restaurant to eat in or anything. So it was a little bit difficult, especially not knowing the culture, but it's got a lot easier these days. The Kid Kushi has asked, are there any places you consider to be tourist traps?
I don't think Japan really has a lot of tourist traps like some countries do. It all tends to be quite honest, and things do generally seem to be worth it from my experience. If you saw my video last time, you'll know I'm not a big fan of the robot restaurant, although I haven't been, so maybe that's not fair, but that looks a bit like a tourist trap to me.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there's definitely some things that feel like they could be tourist traps, that they might be a bit overpriced. The Team Borderless Planets, for example, but that was really good.
I think it's expensive, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah, so I think, you know, a lot of people, it depends what you're into. Some people might see that as a tourist trap in the same way we see the robot restaurant as that, but if it's what you enjoy, it doesn't really matter. I don't think there's any area that draws you in specifically to take your money off you, though. The only example I can think of is the way Harajuku is becoming, which is a lot of stores are kind of moving in and taking over the area, knowing people are going there to experience Harajuku fashion, but they're not Harajuku fashion themselves. Like the places that sell like crazy foods and things, they're going there to charge you a lot of money for this wacky experience that isn't really the point of the area, but that's just how things change.
Yeah, there's more and more stores there that are selling like tourist t-shirts and things that aren't what Harajuku originally was. So that's the way it's going, but I think it's still worth visiting.
No, there's still definitely value there, but it is probably the most tourist trap area. I think everywhere else is quite authentic. So you'd imagine Akiba could be a tourist trap, but it doesn't seem to be.
No, lots of tourists go, but it's still got what was originally good about it.
However, the maid cafes, I think, are definitely tourist traps.
Yeah, maybe not so many locals go there anymore.
Yeah. Claudia asks, lots of questions. Could you show us your collection of stuff you got in Japan? Gachas, figurines, clothing and such.
Wow, there's so much stuff. That would be a whole video on its own. Most of my clothes are from Japan that aren't ones I designed myself. I've got loads of figures, lots of bits and pieces. I did do a haul video once, if you have a look through my channel.
What was the most difficult part about writing your own travel book and running the Kickstarter?
To start with, it was difficult to find what tone to write it in, because the first draft came across quite dry and just like any other travel book, and that wasn't how I wanted it to be. So I made it a bit more chatty and conversational. And actually there was a review this week in Comic Buzz and they did pick up on that. They said it was like having a friend talking to you, and that's exactly what I wanted. So that was tricky. There wasn't anything that I didn't enjoy about making the book. I honestly enjoyed making the whole thing, even though it was a huge project. The only thing I didn't like was at the end when I was proofreading it for about the third or fourth time. It did get a bit boring going through the same thing, looking for spelling mistakes. But it was also difficult doing a huge project before I knew if anyone would buy it or be interested. So that's partly why I did a Kickstarter for it as well.
You were quite stressed before doing the Kickstarter because we did the maths and we figured out how many copies you'd need to sell in order to not lose all your money. And I can't remember what the number was, but it was like, oh, is that possible? Will this many people want it? And trying to figure out all that after you'd spent so long writing it and you were still staring down the barrel of doing months more work.
It was really nerve-wracking, and I remember the day before I launched my Kickstarter, I almost wanted to just delete the whole thing and not do it. But I'm glad I did. It went really well.
A massive thank you to everyone who did buy it.
Thank you.
And it's fantastic. I'm super proud of what you've done. So thank you to everyone for helping that happen. Things you don't like about Japan. Things you don't like about Japan.
That it's so far away.
Yeah.
I think there'd be things that would frustrate me if I lived there, like how bread comes in packs of only 6 or 8 slices. Because I love toast, so that would frustrate me.
That's the worst thing. I think the salaryman lifestyle would really get on top of me. It's not, I don't mind working the hours and certainly don't mind working hard, but it's when there's expectations and there's the sort of a hierarchy.
There's a lot of pressure. It's not an easy life, is it?
Yeah, I think we're both people who like to kind of find our own way a little bit. Is Japan the only place you travel to?
We have been to other places that aren't Japan around the world. We've been to America quite a few times. We've been to Disney World, New York, Vegas, California, some of the national parks.
Utah, Arizona.
They were really good. And some places in Europe like Rome and Barcelona.
Heather Barlow, what are your top items for the Conbini for vegetarians?
Oh, something I discovered recently for vegetarians at the Conbini is a pizza man, which is a steamed bun with cheese and tomato pizza toppings inside.
You love that. That's
really good, because I always discounted the hot counter in the Conbini because I thought it's all meat and fried chicken and stuff. But no, there's a pizza man, and there's a red bean bun, red bean steamed bun as well that you can have. There's some onigiri. There's a seaweed onigiri. There's just a plain one. The pickled plum onigiri is really good. All the bakery section, all the sweet things are really good.
You really like the fruit sandwiches?
Oh yes, that's something you only get in Japan. It's fruit with whipped cream in sandwiches. They're really soft, and you get different varieties at different times of the year, like apple and cinnamon or strawberry.
Stefan asks, next time you're in Japan, would you go to museums, like with the Tokyo Museum Gruta Pass?
The Gruta Pass, or Grut Pass, I don't know how you say it, is a pass for museums, so you can get into, I think, around 100 museums for free or a discounted price. I've never got that, but that's a really good option if you want to go to lots of museums. I haven't been to that many, but I would do. I think I'd check beforehand how much English they have in them to see how much you're going to get out of them. I really enjoyed when we went to the Miraikan, the Science Museum in Odaiba.
Yeah, that was excellent. And he has another question, which is, with which YouTube creators would you like to collaborate with in Japan?
I'd pick my favourites abroad in Japan, Chris Broad, Simon and Martina, although they've left Japan now, but they're still my favourites. And John Doerr, Only in Japan Go.
There's plenty out there, but, not going to harass them.
No.
Orange Hedgehog 2012. Would you make new clothing with themes such as sushi, fruit, or particularly oranges?
Oh, because Orange Hedgehog.
Yes.
Sushi is always on topic for Cakes with Faces, so yes. Fruit, maybe.
A big shout out to Fred here, who replied to this comment on YouTube and said, if anyone can combine Japan, citrus fruit, and a painful pun, Amy can.
Me can. See what you did there. Very good.
Yeah. Ian Beer asks, have you got any plans in the works for any Olympic themed designs for the next year as the Olympics are being hosted in Tokyo?
Hopefully it's going to be a big thing next year. I don't normally do any sports themed designs because I'm not really into sport.
I did do some work with a charity back in 2012 when the Olympics were in London. And it was a sporting charity, and there are loads of regulations and restrictions about the usage of any Olympic things. So I'm sure you could do your own take on it, but it can be a bit of a dodgy area.
Official licensing, I don't want to get into trouble.
Yeah, they can be really on top of it, but maybe you could do something, maybe. Francesca asks, my son would like to know what your favourite kind of cake is.
My favourite cake, chocolate fudge cake, warm with vanilla ice cream.
Interesting. I wouldn't have said that.
What would you have said?
I would have said, what's the strawberry one you have?
Oh, that's nice. Strawberry shortcake, like you get in Japan. That's really fluffy.
And you like red velvet cake as well?
Yes, I do. I like all of them.
Isaac, last time we were in Tokyo, we stayed in Shinjuku. Good idea.
Good choice.
We are night owls and really love the lights and sounds of the nightlife there. Shinjuku Station is really a monster to try and figure out.
True story.
So, my question is, would you suggest a different part of Tokyo to stay in and still feel like Shinjuku? We really like museums and we were thinking of Ueno. Your thoughts?
I think Ueno is a little bit more chilled than Shinjuku. It's not quite as shiny and modern as Shinjuku, I think. Ikebukuro has a similar sort of feel. That's also really built up and busy. You might have a similar problem because the station is also quite big and busy.
Shibuya has the same.
Yeah, Shibuya has a similar feel, but again, the station is huge. Probably not as big as Shinjuku. That's the busiest station in the world. How about staying in Shinjuku but near one of the smaller stations like Shinjuku Sanchome or Higashi Shinjuku, because they're much smaller stations that aren't going to give you the problems that the main Shinjuku station would, but you're still there.
Yeah. Wherever you pick though, it's easy to get around, so I quite like staying near Ginza, and I don't particularly like Ginza itself, but at night there's something really pleasant about looking down the long streets and seeing all the lights. And if you stay there, then you can walk around the area and you get all these kind of different districts nearby, which are great fun to explore. But if you're craving a bit of Shinjuku, half an hour on a train, probably not even that.
I mean, Ginza is designer shopping, which isn't really our scene, but it does look nice at night with all the lights.
And there's a great ramen shop there. So the next question, Kawanawa's goody. Next question, what is Cakes with Faces?
We should have started with
it's
this
a good
one.
question. Yeah. Just assume people know.
Cakes with Faces is my business or my brand. It's the name I give for all my designs, which I put on stuff and sell on my website.
Michelle Joyce, what area of Tokyo has the best transport links?
Shinjuku has great transport links. It's on a lot of lines. All the major stations, if you look at the metro map and see which ones have the most lines, a lot of the ones that are around the Yamanote line are a good option. Yeah.
There's plenty of them. And as long as you're near a station, you can get to any other one pretty quickly. But if we were planning on going out of Tokyo a lot on day trips, Shinjuku is where I would want to be.
Or Tokyo Station. You've got the Shinkansen then. Or some in the middle near Akasaka have loads of lines.
CD Racing asks, what's the weirdest, in a funny way, situation, experience you've had in Japan? What would it be?
Maybe when we met the Nostradamus of beer.
Oh yeah, he was fun.
We were at a bar in Shinjuku late at night and we got talking to the people next to us. One was an American and one was a Japanese guy. And the Japanese guy introduced himself to us as the Nostradamus of beer.
He was a business card.
Yeah, he had a business card and that's what it said on it.
That was strange. We also, there was a time when a nice elder Japanese man pulled me aside and I didn't know what was going on. He was trying to beckon me over. I'm like, okay, kind of cautiously went over to him, and then he had to explain that my flies were undone. And that was a bit weird. Aussie Train has a question about timing, and it's quite a general question, but how much time do you think you would spend in somewhere like Gion, for example, or how much time would you spend somewhere like the Imperial Palace?
That can be a difficult thing to work out when you haven't been somewhere to know how to budget your time. I'd say the best way to go about it is like we were talking about on a previous question, where you just have a list of things you want to do and know which are the most important ones and then sort of freestyle it from there. So if you want to move on from somewhere, it's not going to mess up your whole schedule.
Try not to pack too many things in one go. So if you're in Kyoto and think about, I want to go to Gion and I want to go and if you want to go to any other areas around it, don't think you're going to do 5 in a day. If that's what you can do, then wonderful, you can go back and revisit areas. But if you plan on doing 2, maybe 3 things, then there's a good chance you'll get through them all without kind of rushing through and missing things.
If you're exhausted, you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah. Askal Drifter, Amy, do you plan to travel to any other Asian countries, maybe South Korea or Taiwan or somewhere in Southeast Asia?
I would love to go to South Korea. It seems like it's a bit like Japan but different, and I've tried some Korean food that I really like, so I'm really interested to know more about that. I'd also quite like to go to Vietnam, which I don't know much about it at all, but I've seen some places that look really interesting and like scenery and temples with all roots around them.
It looks beautiful, yeah. Certainly as we're able to travel more, we would like to go to more places. Lycan Moon asks, how do the Japanese feel about tattoos now? My arms and legs are covered in them. What areas will it affect me visiting? Now,
this is something I think people ask about quite a lot. People are a bit concerned about it when you hear that tattoos are taboo in Japan. But I think people are getting a bit more relaxed towards them, especially younger people. And obviously, traditionally, tattoos were associated with the Yakuza, and that's why it's a problem. And they'll see that you're a foreigner and obviously not part of the Yakuza. The main place it would be a problem would be at onsen, hot springs. But there are onsen that do allow tattoos, and you can look up lists of them online. People have done blog posts about it. And also at gyms, which I don't know if that would be a problem when you're a visitor, really. I don't plan on going to the gym.
Yeah. It's not something we've really looked into. Neither of us have tattoos, so it's not really ever come up. But I don't think it's a case of if you've got tattoos, you're going to be shunned. It's just some places they might deter you from visiting, like onsens. But I think in general, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah, just walking around the streets, I don't think you need to worry.
From Angel Cervantes, what's your advice for someone who is going to travel to Japan for the first time?
I think you should do what you want to and ignore all the popular tourist things if they're not your sort of thing. Don't just go to the top 10 places because that's where everybody goes to. Think about what you want to do, what you like about Japan, and what sort of things appeal to you, because that's how you're going to have the best time.
And whilst that's really good, and you should definitely do the things you want to do, it doesn't hurt to just try something different as well. So if you're going there because you really like anime and you're going to Akiba and you're going to have a great time there, it doesn't hurt to also go and explore, like go around Shodome or have a look around some of the parks like Shinjuku-Goen or something. Like just do something different whilst you're there, and definitely try different food, different drinks. Just sort of try and enjoy the things you can only do in Japan, because you might love them and then end up making YouTube videos for a few years and getting really into it. Soft Angely asks, what is your favourite city in Japan?
Tokyo. I'll always love Tokyo the best.
Neil asks, can you advise, is it cheaper to go in March when it's a bit chillier, but before cherry blossom time, or May after Golden Week, or in September for airfares and hotel costs?
I think earlier in the year tends to be cheaper. I'm pretty sure when we went in February, it was the cheapest flights we've ever got to Japan. Of course, the cherry blossoms are at the end of March, so you want to avoid that time. But earlier in March and January and February, I think are cheaper in general. That's considered more the off season.
Next question is from Thirsty Paolu. When will it be possible to visit Japan?
Don't know.
Yeah, just have to keep an eye on the news. And what's your favourite food or maid cafe in Akiba?
I always think Akiba's not really a place for food as much as other places. I think we've enjoyed eating at places like Coco Curry in Akiba more than anything. For maid cafes, I think Maid Dreamin' is a good one to go to. It's sort kind of the big corporation of maid cafes. So maybe the independent ones would be better, I don't know. But Maid Dreamin' is sort of a reliable experience. There's quite a lot of them. And at the Heaven's Gate branch of Maid Dreamin', you can change into a maid outfit. If that's what you want, you can ask for the moe change and try on their outfit.
Nada asks, do you prefer city or countryside when you think about Japan?
I primarily like the modern side of Japan, so I think of the city and Tokyo and all the bright lights.
So, Semicolon has asked, two-part question. How should I prepare for planning a trip to Japan with the current pandemic in mind? They're thinking of going late in 2021. And also, are there ways to go backpacking or camping whilst in Japan without having to bring all my own gear? I love being outdoors and it would be amazing to do that whilst visiting.
Well, with the pandemic, the situation's changing so much that who knows what will be happening by late 2021. But I'd say take masks with you, get the most comfortable masks you can because you might be wearing them all day, and consider how you'll be able to get around without going on public transport quite so much, because the underground, the metro, would normally be how you'd get around to most places, but it's an enclosed space, might not be the safest place to be right now. So think of other ways to get around. With camping, we've never been camping in Japan, but I've heard that it's something people are doing a lot more, especially with the current situation when people might want to go to hotels so much. People want to get out to the countryside where there's a bit more space, and I'm sure it'd be a really nice thing to do. A lot of campsites do rent equipment out to you, so you wouldn't have to take your own tent on the plane. So yeah, check that out before you go, and you might be able to rent it.
Cool. So, Smelly Grunjami asks, I'm looking forward to my first trip to Japan, but I have a strange question. How do folks over there treat people who are noticeably overweight? I am and have been for years, and I've heard that some people may stare.
I don't have direct experience, so I could be wrong. But I've heard from Chris Broad, especially his podcast, has said that when he was a bit overweight, his Japanese friends would sort of poke him in the stomach and comment on it sometimes, which is something I don't think people would really do so much in England. So it can be something people would comment on. But I think if you're there as a tourist, I don't think people in the street would do that who you don't know. It's a different situation from if you're there with colleagues or people you've got to know. There are a lot of foreigners going to Japan now. Tourism has increased a huge amount over the last few years, until this year obviously. So people especially in Tokyo, are going to be used to seeing foreigners of all shapes and sizes. Sometimes I get stared at for having different coloured hair. But generally, people are really polite and quite reserved, so I don't think anybody would be rude about it or even make a comment, probably.
No, I think it would be fine. I think sometimes that people commenting on being overweight is sometimes concern for health more than it is to make fun or because they're shocked by it. It's certainly not unusual to see bigger people in Japan. So, you know, you might get some people staring, but I'd say that could happen to anyone. So, just go and enjoy it. Next question from Ashley. How did you and Phil meet and where?
We met at uni. We were in the same halls, so we met on the very first day.
Mm-hmm. Amy liked my t-shirt.
Oh yeah, it was from a band I like.
Yeah. So we've got quite a few Gachapon questions.
Specialist subject.
Basically, what is your favourite Gachapon out of the ones you've collected? Which one did you get first?
You know, I don't remember what my first ever Gachapon was. How can I not remember such a great moment?
I'm trying to think and I can't remember what it was either.
No, most of my Gachapon are hamster gacha because I can never resist the Cafe de Hamu or the cute little hamsters. I
have quite a few Monokuma ones from Danganronpa and I really like them.
But I think the best ones are the ones I don't have that I find for my videos. They're the most amazing. Like the ones that would light up ramen buttons from the vending machines at a ramen restaurant. Things like that. Light up ones are always good.
Mishi Fuffly Cakes has asked, is it alright or easy for a shy, childlike person to approach people who doesn't know how to speak or understand Japanese? Is it easy for them to travel, survive, communicate in cities like Tokyo and Osaka? And do you have any advice for that?
I think obviously it's a generalisation, but people in Japan tend to be quite reserved anyway, so you probably find you fit in quite well with that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say in some ways being introvert lets you fit in better than being extrovert. So people who are a bit more quiet and reserved, like you said, will fit in. I think we're both very introvert people, and we don't like to necessarily stand out or, to put ourselves into any situation we feel uncomfortable with. The only times I felt uncomfortable was on our first trip, was when you were kind of exploring what restaurants or bars can you go into. But once you've done that, it's really not a problem. And there's so many of them that are obviously very open and welcoming that I don't think you'll have a bad time. I think you do need to be a bit brave if you're very introvert, but certainly everyone's super polite and everyone is there just to... everyone will help you have a good time, really. We've never had a bad situation.
Very welcoming, and they want you to feel comfortable.
Absolutely. Senpai Ahai has asked, why did you make a channel, and what is your favourite part about going to Japan?
Firstly, my channel was to promote my business, Cakes with Faces, but then it became its whole thing all on its own. When I went to Japan, I enjoyed sharing all my experiences with all you guys and going back through all the footage and chatting in the comments and all of that. And my favourite part about going to Japan, I just enjoy being there. It's a pleasant place to be. The people are nice to you. Things just work. It's clean. There's a lot of things I like. The food. There's things I want to buy in the shops.
There's that perfect day thing, isn't there, where you can go and explore a new area, see something interesting, see something that's perhaps a bit different. You have some great food, and then you'll travel back and you'll be going to your hotel, but you'll stop by an arcade on the way, and then you'll go and get some more food. And it's just a wonderful day of things we enjoy. Brittany has asked, how long have you been vegetarian?
For a long time, since I was 7 years old. At the time I just started going off different types of meat. I decided I didn't like it. I'd cut out all the fatty bits and all the red bits, and then there wasn't much left. And for a while I ate fish, and then I decided I didn't like that either, and it just stayed that way.
Nikki has asked, how do you choose between all the yummy snacks? There is not enough room in my belly for everything.
That's a very good question. Often when I ask Phil what he wants to do on our trip when it's coming up, all he says is things he wants to eat.
So I said before in this video, I don't really like the idea of really planning or micromanaging your trip. But before we were going this time, I did plan a lot of places I really wanted to eat, and I was really worried I wouldn't be able to get through all those places.
You've only got a finite amount of meals. It's a big problem. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A, and thank you for all your questions. I took a little break from videos over Christmas, but I'll be back not next week, but the week after on Thursday.